welcome to Chicago Style Eats, the show where we talk about tasty foods invented in Chicago. I'm Tony.
And I'm Stephanie.
In this week's episode, we're talking about the Italian beef sandwich. It really couldn't be any simpler. Roast beef sliced thin and simmered in its juices and Italian seasonings and served on a French bread roll. Though it can be found now around the U.S., it was born in Chicago. As usual, there are several claims as to who made the first Italian beef sandwich, or locally known simply as an Italian beef.
Chicago accent.
Al's number one Italian beef started off in the near South Side Little Italy neighborhood in 1938, originally as a front for an illegal gambling establishment, supposedly. As the story goes, Al Ferreri and a group of his buddies decided to open a bookie joint, and Al made beef sandwiches to sell as a front. After a few years, Al realized the beef sandwich business was making him a lot of money he wouldn't have to go to jail for. So he bought out his friends and made the business strictly legit. In another story, during the Great Depression, Scala Packing Company introduced the idea of serving thinly sliced beef and gravy on a bun at weddings and banquets to make sure that there was enough food for everyone. But the sandwiches grew in popularity and became a Chicago icon. Yet a third story gives credit to the simple working-class Italian immigrant families who would rent halls and supply the food themselves for what were called peanut weddings, because the families often included roasted peanuts for their guests. But they also served the thinly sliced, wet roasted beef on Italian rolls. Anyway, by the 1950s, one of those stories, or the combination of all three, resulted in the Chicago-style Italian beef sandwich, becoming as popular, if not more popular, than the Chicago dog. And today, both items are usually sold alongside each other in beef stands and hot dog stands throughout the city. When I was a kid, I didn't know that there was such a thing as the Chicago-style Italian beef sandwich. I'm half Italian. My father's parents came over from Italy, and when I was growing up, we would get them, and they were beef sandwiches. He'd say, "Hey, Tone, you want to go for a ride? Let's go get some beef sandwiches." Like usually in the summer on a hot Friday night or something, or not a Friday night because we were Catholic. So like a Saturday, we would go get beef sandwiches. And that's how we knew, beef sandwiches. And they were great. Fast forward 15 years or so, and I'm in the Air Force, and I'm in Tucson, Arizona for training. And first or second day of training, it's like an orientation, and one of the guys asks the instructor, where's a good place for food, for lunch? And the instructor says, if you want the best Chicago-style Italian roast beef sandwich, you need to go to Luke's down on whatever street. I'm like, what's a Chicago-style Italian roast beef sandwich? So I took the guy, took down the address, and one day at lunch I drove down. I was probably about, 20 minutes from the base. Find this place, Luke's, on this busy highway. I walk in and I open the door and I see, banners for all the Chicago sports teams and flags and stuff. I'm like, okay, it's Chicago themed. So I get to the counter, and then I see the steam tables where they have the beef. And it hit me because I hadn't had a beef sandwich at this point for a number of years, because I had been, went through basic training, then went to Montana for a year and a half, and then I was down in Arizona. And when it hit me that what the Chicago-style Italian roast beef sandwich was, I was in heaven. And so it was like, oh, so this is a Chicago thing. I didn't even know. It was just beef sandwiches. So, like many Chicago foods, there's a common beef sandwich must-have, or there are must-haves for people. The beef is served dripping in its juices, which when you put it on the bread is going to just soak the bread. But some people like their bread even more soggy. So they'll ask for the ends of the sandwich to be dunked into the juice in the steamer tray. For added flavor and crunch, people ask for a topping of giardiniera, often spicy, hot, or slices of sautéed green peppers, or both. For Italian beef aficionados, a special language has developed, so when you hear someone order a beef sandwich dipped, hot, and sweet, now you know what they're talking about.
So we learned from the Al's Beef website, because that's where we chose to go since it seemed to be the story they favored in the book for the origins. We went to Al's Beef in Little Italy, a little bit of a tongue twister.
Little Italy.
And when we were looking at the website before we went down, they actually have in their menu a category for the stance. So it's the position you're supposed to use when you're eating the Italian beef. So these are the instructions. Step 1, put your elbows on the counter. Step 2, place your feet exactly 2.5 feet. We were going to take a measuring tape, but we forgot. Step 3, lean into the counter in the sandwich. And then step 4, shove it in your face and dig into it. The restaurant likes to brag that not only were they ones to invent a sandwich, but they invented the way to eat it. So that's kind of funny.
We went to Al's, and now this is one of those I've been, we come up with the idea to do this show from this book, and I have been waiting to do the Italian beef sandwich, the Italian beef, because that's it's Italian
Chicago
beef
accent.
or it's just the beef sandwich. You're gonna go for beefs.
When I first moved to Chicago 7.5 years ago, I had a friend who said, "Oh, I've got to take you for an Italian beef." And I was like, "Okay, what is it?" He's like, "It's an Italian beef." Well, what does that mean? And it's an Italian beef. I don't know why he couldn't have just said, "It's a sliced roast beef," or just a roast beef sandwich. It was like,
It wasn't me.
Call it something else.
Yeah, it wasn't me telling her that. Because I'd have been all over it. Because I would wax poetic about this sandwich. Anyway, so growing up, like I said, we would go for beef sandwiches, and it's just a flavor from your childhood. It's a flavor from my childhood that it just when it's right. And at Al's, the flavor is right. They've got
The right
the seasoning and the meat's the right thickness or thinness, whatever you want to call it, and the sauce. And it was great. I can't say anything bad about Al's. The bread I ordered it dipped, and it was just soggy, and I want another one now.
And when if you go to the Al's website, they show video of them slicing the beef so you can see how thinly it's sliced, and then they also show video of the assembly of the sandwich and when they dip it, and they don't do just the ends, they just take the whole thing and dip it in the au jus and then bring it back out and then put it in the wrapping paper.
So where else can we go for an Italian beef?
You can go to Al's #1 Italian Beef at 1079 West Taylor, as well as other locations throughout Chicagoland. Johnny's Beef at 7500 West North Avenue in Elmwood Park.
Also in Arlington Heights.
And Mr. Beef on Orleans, 666 North Orleans.
So go out, find yourself an Italian beef. You can, just about any hot dog stand
Anywhere.
Also sells Italian beef sandwiches, but
Anywhere.
highly recommend the ones mentioned in the book. Go out and find yourself an Italian beef sandwich and enjoy.
And do the stance.
The stance. We have to do the stance.
Do the stance.
If you like this episode, click the thumbs up icon below. Don't like it? Let us know in the comments what might make it better. Want to see more Chicago-style eats? Click the subscribe button below so you can get an alert each time we drop a new episode. Don't know what the heck we're doing? Click on the end screen or the link in the description below to see our intro video. Thanks for watching.